Oh, that's an early one for
Or
you.
sorry, for 8:30. I gotta be at work at 8:30 in the morning. I gotta be up at like a while before that, So I took an earlier shift because I got like another meeting and like I got a thing after work each of these 3 days I work here. I just realized that over the week, and I'm like, oh shit, it's gonna be busy for a little bit. I'm just gonna be up and at 'em for like 3 days straight. But yeah,
Put on the grind mentality and just let her get her done, and then
yeah. I mean, okay, so a lot of it's fun stuff, but
yeah.
it's three things. It's just three things in a row. I got this after work today. I got my writers group AGM tomorrow night, and then which it should be shorter, so that's the least of the three. But I didn't need to like switch up shifts so I could get there on time. And then I got D&D after work Thursday, which I'll need to make up my battle maps at work because I don't have them ready. And it's like the first like real big combat I'm doing for the game. So yeah, it's a whole thing.
It'll be an
Anyway,
adventure.
yeah. Welcome, listeners, to the podcast of the Living Zombie, our little spin-off podcast that's a Night of the Living Dead fan cast. It's where we do where we review a bunch of films that spawned from Night of the Living Dead. This is our second batch.
Spooky.
Oh yeah, this is our little new October tradition. I'm Kyle, one of your co-hosts.
And it is me, Curtis, back for the zombies again.
Yeah. Yeah, so we got with the last one we got like all the original, and to explain a little bit of how this works, after the Night of the Living Dead, they made two different people made sequels. The director made a sequel, and the writer made a sequel. And those sort of franchises, the director George A. Romero did Dawn of the Dead as a sequel, which had Day of the Dead, and which then progresses to Day of the Dead, and today's movie Land of the Dead. We're calling that of the Dead franchise, just for simplicity.
Makes
The
sense.
writer, yep, the writer did Return of the Living Dead, which is just the name of that series. It's just part 1, part 2, part 3, whatever. And then the Italians have made like their own sequels to actually Dawn of the Dead, which are just called Zombi with no E at the end, and just Zombie 2, 3, 4, and we'll be doing Zombie 3 next week. And then after that, we'll be doing Return of the Living Dead Part 2. And then because we need a fourth one for the 4 weeks of the month, we will be doing the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead remake, which I might be doing with Cody, but we'll see. Anyway, but yeah, so this is the first episode, 2022, with Land of the Dead, the first 21st century movie we're doing as part of this podcast.
Yeah, that threw me off. I had to actually send you a message to confirm that it was the right one, so I didn't watch the wrong one again.
Yeah, that did happen once. But yeah, there is a 20-year gap between this and its previous entry, Day of the Dead, which was 1985, and this came out on the 20th anniversary of Day of the Dead. So this is a 2005 film. The reason for the big gap, it's actually just George A. Romero just didn't have as much interest in the franchise after Day of the Dead. Zombies were kind of less big in the 90s, but in the early 2000s you have Shaun of the Dead, and then 28 Days Later come out like within a few years of each other, and that kind of got the population hankering for more zombie stuff, including George A. Romero, and he's just like, you know what? Yeah, I'll make another one. And he kind of used up some ideas that he had and didn't use from Day of the Dead. This is very much a sister film to Day of the Dead.
Yeah, it gives off very. I was trying to remember Day of the Dead for the story plot, but yeah, definitely could see where it fits in around the same kind of time ish slash, if not very close to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of vibes. It's about like they're both about like organized communities and like interpersonal conflicts that arise between that. They're going about that in like very different ways, but yeah, just both they're both kind of like have some similar dynamics and they're kind of in the same wheelhouse. Totally different movies, but I think they make a pretty neat double feature actually. Like watching them back to back if you want sort of like really two similar movies.
True.
Yeah. This is a lot bigger budget. This has a $19 million budget, which is the most for any of the films in the George A. Romero in the franchise in general, I think. So this is the biggest budget of it. Sorry, 16 million. It would end up making 46 million, which is a nice little turnover. It's always weird to see like these practical effects movies because this has like a lot of cool stuff in it, but it's weird that they managed to make these sort of things. This is a good looking movie. Like I didn't watch this on Blu-ray or anything, but like
Very much so. Yeah.
I don't know, I just have it on DVD, but I thought it looked pretty good. It's neat seeing like that 80s like a movie using very similar style special effects, just like with a bit more. It's very much the same sort of stuff with like 20 years more experience put into it. So it looks a little crisper, is all.
Definitely, yeah. That was one
Mm.
of the things I almost immediately noticed too was the that they did a lot of similar, type like bits, but it's just you could tell they had a lot more to work with this one and polished.
Very similar styles of gore used in both movies. It's just, yeah, it's just like a little bit better technology. And it's wild that like you're making this. If they were making more monies with this sort of technology, it'd be we'd be. I think this is part of the problems with like modern Hollywood is so much of it is just like you need to use CGI, and you're just getting these ridiculous budgets on like random
Hmm.
movies which don't pick up anywhere. But I think a lot of the reason it sounds like a lot of the big studios are just like a lot of the practical effects guys are unionized and a lot of digital effects guys aren't unionized and they're just like
Yep.
refusing to do like work with the unionized guys and I think that's just it's a lot of Hollywood stubbornness but I mean that's
Yeah, I
just
was
some
reading
yeah.
somebody was telling me something about that the other day where it was like the techies, like the CGI people, when they were doing the unions, were like one of the only groups that like said no, we don't want a union. So now what happens is there's so much CGI demand that a lot of like these houses are getting like overworked and they don't have a union to like fight for them and that, and it's just a whole big mess. Plus a lot of productions are finding that they can cut costs. It's weird. You spend more on CGI, but it cuts costs down the line in other ways. It's like a very post heavy cost, but in terms of like cutting down on filming days and the amount of people that need to be on set for those filming days, they can really, you know, bring it down. So I enjoy seeing films like this where, it showcases the art of practical effects because you're right, you don't see it very much anymore.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is that like computer generated studios they start appearing in like the 80s, which is just a time when unions aren't like big. Like it's maybe picking up a little bit more, but
Hmm.
like unions just were like on the downswing in the 1980s. And like even going into like up until probably very recently actually. I think the pandemic is like the only reason any of this has started to turn around really. Like we'll see what this all looks like in 10 years, but yeah, it's just that yeah, it's one of the few sections of Hollywood that didn't come to prominence in an age when like labor movements were sort of big. So they're one of like the few corners that don't have like their own like union like big established unions. But yeah, and there's also the fact that like yeah, it cuts down on like filming time. There's a lot of I think with stunts, like there's a lot of like you don't have to worry about someone getting hurt is another thing, which is always a
Mm-hmm.
big pain in the butt.
True.
And yeah, there's just a lot of like there's points on both sides. I think most of the problem people have is just like like a lot of people are starved for like practical effects, and we're real and like practical effects look
Yeah.
really good. It was effect, especially like it's one thing now, but like back in like the early 2000s when like CGI looks like crap a lot of the time. I mean, it looked good for the time, but like it wouldn't nearly compare to like what the practical effects guys could do at that time. Like we can do amazing things and we're just like we're really good at it. But as we're getting like really good at it, see computer technology starts coming up and it's just but yeah, that's the whole thing. So but yeah, it's another interesting thing is that George A. Romero wanted to go with like lesser known actors, which is despite his like bigger budget, but he's just like he's of the mind that like yeah, we wanted to try using smaller actors. For the most part, there are some bigger actors in this, although bigger actors in the sense of like 2005 John Gazano, Leguizamo, Leguizamo, yeah, John Leguizamo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm bad at that name. Sorry, John. That was you don't deserve that. Um, but yeah, and then Dennis Hopper, who was just like a really big fan of George Romero's work. But yeah, I think John, John and Dennis are like John Leguizamo and Dennis Hopper are like the bigger actors in this movie. Then we got like though there are actually some cameos from Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg. They were the two zombies in like the photo booth a little later.
Oh.
Yeah, that was Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg in zombie makeup.
No way.
Yeah, another interesting
Yeah, I was
acting.
quite surprised with a
Yeah,
few of the
yeah.
the cast that were in it. Because yeah, John has always been like one of the ones I've really enjoyed whenever I see him in films. You know, it's never like I never expect him in the film, and then when he's there, I'm very happy that he is. He does a very good job.
I like that he's doing like I like that he's not he's I mean it's a Marvel film. He's like I haven't seen him in too many. I kind of like him in like this dramatic role. I think he does quite a good job with it.
Mm-hmm.
They have another interesting actor choice. Simon Baker plays the leads. Riley Denbo. Another interesting thing is Asia Argento plays the female lead. She is the daughter of Dario Argento, who notably made the European cut of Dawn of the Dead.
Oh no way.
To and also like Dario and George or George A. Romero are like buddies. They collaborate occasionally. But yeah, so that's a that's a neat little thing also. But yeah, it's for the most part a lot of smaller actors. They all have like Wikipedia pages and everything for the most part. There's not too many like full on black like no one has their pages. The main character is Simon Baker. He's more TV stuff. He was in The Mentalist. Yeah, he was in The Mentalist. This is big like film role. He's in a few other films, but that's like his big thing he's known as. I think he's in The Ring 2. But yeah. But yeah, it's a little bit different and it's yeah. It's kind of nice seeing this sort of movie in 2005. Honestly. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But yeah, I think we'll just go into the film real quick. So Land of the
Sure.
Dead. It starts with a kind of like a little bit of a pointless intro scene, pointless thing that says "some time ago," where it's like does like the intro scene. It doesn't. Main thing is they didn't need to save "some time ago." They could have just done the intro of just like a bunch of newsreel footage of like explaining some of the zombie stuff coming up. Yeah, it was just it's just not kind of bland. It's something you like blaze through, just like to as some to put the opening credits over. But yeah, and eventually that leads into the opening scenes, which are under this awfully thick blue filter, which is funny. It doesn't stick around for the rest of the movie, thank God. But I don't know if they're trying to do day for night or something,
It's
but
nighttime.
yeah, yeah, they show a bunch of zombies at like a church as like Simon Baker's main character Riley Denbo and another side character are like scoping out the zombies around this random small town. And and they're scoping out this area of these zombies in front of a church. We see like as a bunch of zombies holding like a band to kind of like represent that the zombies are like repeating doing stuff like that they did in life. Kind of like carrying on from stuff from Dawn of the Dead. Not something we saw as much in Day of the Dead, just because how that film was set up. But yeah, like the zombies in the Romero verse, like spend a lot of time mimicking the stuff they did in life, which is why they stick around cities and don't like wander out in the countryside as much like they do in like The Walking Dead. But yeah, it's kind of neat. They're like holding instruments, and we actually see one zombie watch working at like a gas station. And when like the ringer on one of the gas pumps rings, the zombie comes out and waves a gas nozzle around. This zombie is notably the main zombie of the movie. They call Big Daddy because that's written on his little coveralls. He is played by Eugene Clark, Canadian actor, actually, American Canadian actor.
Oh, neat.
He's also a football player. Actually played for a year in the Toronto Argonauts. So yeah,
Oh, neat.
yeah, he's in a few things. He doesn't have any. He does a bunch of small films. He's in a bunch of these TV movies called Tech War, the Tech War franchise. But yeah, he's in a bunch of those. Nothing too big. Oh, he's actually in the Trailer Park Boys movie, the first one.
Oh, no. Iconic.
But yeah, he's in a bunch of random movies, and he's in a bunch of television one-off episodes and whatnot. I think maybe Tech War is one of his bigger roles actually. But yeah, and yeah, that's our maid zombie. He's kind of like the mimic, the same as what was the main zombie in Day of the Dead? I forget. I should have. But yeah, there was a zombie in Day of the Dead, which was sort of like gaining intelligence, and this Big Daddy zombie is doing the same thing.
Yeah, they very much set him up where it's like, you wonder if the other zombies will eventually get to his level of understanding, but he's
Yeah,
definitely given the most cohesiveness.
it's just something that's like sort of picking up throughout the Romero films. Is like the zombies steadily getting more intelligent. Bub was the zombie from the
Oh,
Day of the
yeah.
Dead. Yeah, Bub was his name. So this guy's the new Bub. But yeah, yeah, so that's the first we notice of him. He's a neat little character. He's got like scary looking teeth. He looks the zombies in this are generally have a bit more skin color than some of the other ones. Like they don't look as faded. Although the makeup in that is sort of like depends on who's getting the makeup. But zombies in this generally have more color.
Hmm.
They're watching these zombies, and like we get a look at a bunch of them. We see John Leguizamo's character Cholo dumping some boxes full of that are leaking blood into like a garbage pit or into the like a trash pile of some sort. To notice that this character Cholo is a shady character who we'll see a bit more of a little bit later.
Hmm.
We are introduced to the a lot of the human characters in this are gathering up. They reunite at this big war rig, which I can describe as something straight out of like Mad Max. Essentially, it's something called Dead Reckoning, is what they call it. It's a big bus or semi truck that's had like a bunch of armor plates put onto it. It's got like full on like anti-aircraft and missile launchers on the top of it. So they've sort of made this makeshift tank, which has a whole thing, and that's how we're introduced to this thing, which is like the big sort of super weapon they have for this whole deal.
Their battle bus that they use for anything and everything in terms of.
You still there?
Oh, yep.
Okay, yeah, no, just yeah,
I was
just
going off, and then I was just like, "What?"
yeah, yeah, no, I thought you would, yeah, but yeah, a notable thing they do in this after they meet up is Dead Reckoning shoots off fireworks, which manages to attract a bunch of the zombies, and they just stare at it transfixed for a long time. And this is an opportunity for these human scavengers to do scavenging, which is a whole neat thing. Which is a yeah, this is it's neat seeing them learn these little tricks to figure out to get around the zombies. But yeah, they're just utterly transfixed by these fireworks for whatever reason. It's
Yeah,
I don't know.
definitely. I get the vibes at the start of this film where, like, they have become very used to living
Mhm.
amongst the zombies. Like it's not like they're immediately like all like running and scared and trying to figure out how to like just keep them away. It's like no, they have plans and tactics that they use in order to get what they need and get out safely. So that was kind of neat to see, is that this is nothing that's not new to them basically.
Yeah. It's very like they've developed their own sort of society up to the point that like people use money in this movie, which isn't like that common as common in like post-apocalyptic stuff. They use like straight up American dollar bills, where like you keep it in a bank and whatnot. That's a whole yeah. It's kind of, sort of like weirdly post-apocalyptic. It's interesting, which is actually a big part of this movie. But nonetheless, yeah. So the guys go out and do some scavenging. Cholo takes the guy who was hanging out with Riley, and that was his name, right? I had that right, Riley.
Yep.
Yep, yeah, it's Riley. Yeah, he takes the guy that Cholo takes the guy that was with Riley to go do some scavenging, and we're introduced to one of the characters, Charlie, played by Robert Joy, who's a guy who's a bit on like in universe is on some sort of mental health neurodivergent spectrum. He's also notably has like a big one half of his face is like burned very badly, but he's despite having some being a bit slow at times, he is a crack shot with a rifle. So that's a whole thing. So yeah, that's one of our other characters. I like Charlie. Charlie's kind of nice.
I did enjoy Charlie as a character.
Yeah. Um, and he doesn't die in the movie, which is kind of nice.
They always off him, but not this time.
Yeah, you like a lot of guys would have killed this guy off. It's like for because he's the guy with like a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
emotional connection, and like he would have been an easy cheap kill for the authors. But I kind of like that. I kind of like that they don't go for the like some of the for like the cheap emotional impact in a lot of ways. Although movie isn't like that's only so far I can praise. A lot of the kills in this movie are like sort of like, oh, I turned in the wrong direction and now I'm getting bitten. But like there is a good 5-6 of those in this, which isn't which
Yeah,
it gets tiresome. Yeah, it's some of the kills just don't feel earned. Deaths don't feel earned in this.
there's one in particular I really loved. We can wait till it gets to it to discuss it in further
Yeah,
detail, but it was definitely the top notch kill of the movie in my opinion.
yeah. So they are going to do this. They do all this and gather supplies. A few of them are like taking shots at zombies to clear out the area. The big daddy zombie notices a few of the zombies getting killed and is also all sad. But he's not like fast enough to go to like get anybody. So he doesn't get anyone at this point in the movie. But yeah, that so we get to see that this zombie has emotions, which I don't know. This is maybe perhaps the flaw with like the sentient zombie thing. It's like, okay, you're never gonna feel sad for a zombie, basically. Yeah, I understand what he's saying, but he is still a flesh-eating monster. I mean, yeah, I don't. It's hard to feel sad for a zombie. I don't know. I don't feel like there's a lot
Definitely
of
tough. Yeah, you just yeah.
yeah.
They definitely try to make it feel like, at least when they first introduced Big Daddy, they almost want you to feel bad for him, but it does not hold up long before
No.
you're just like, yep.
Yeah, like I can certainly respect that this thing is upset that we killed its friend, but it's a flesh-eating monster that's going to kill us all, which was sort of like which was made clear in like Day of the Dead. Like the entire thing is in like in Day of the Dead where they were trying to where the scientist was trying to prove that zombies could be domesticated. They were only doing as well as they did because the scientist was feeding the zombie human flesh. So it was like it's still a monster. You're not getting around that. There's no squaring this circle and making this thing
Hmm.
like likable. And it's not even sentient enough that you could get like it's not like a vampire, like because like vampires eat people, but they're still like human beings. Like it can express that it's feeling regret for its actions, which a zombie does not. I think this is sort of like there's a whole thing about this, and like at some point in the future, I think we might end up doing like a thing where we like go into the influences of all this and do like one of the like the I Am Legend adaptations. Not like the Will Smith one because that one doesn't work for what I'm talking about. But like in the I Am Legend where like you realize that the monsters have become like fully sentient people. It's like even then it's like yeah, I guess like I can I acknowledge you have emotions, but you're still trying to eat me. You can like yeah, you can say I'm a monster for killing all these zombies all you want, but they'll eat me. There's like zombies aren't a conceivably peaceful creature unlike I think even like vampires and werewolves, they're like there's a part of them that's still human. Zombies are like no, you're not. You're not like there's scarce like it would take a lot for me to like be like, okay, yeah, it's okay that this zombie ate people and killed people and whatnot. It'd have to like
True.
deal. Yeah, it doesn't work as well with zombies, and I think you'd basically be making them into a vampire at that point.
Yeah.
Which maybe that's a thing to do, but I think that's maybe like an angle that hasn't been explored much, like having like a vampire being like the end result of this is maybe like having some of the zombies turn into like essentially vampires. Which
That's
yeah,
like gives me vibes like Tokyo Ghoul if you ever watched it or read about
yeah,
it.
I have not.
Is this an anime where they have a similar thing where it's like when the things get turned into, I don't know if it's demons or not or whatever, but they crave and eat human flesh and need it to survive, but there's like a whole like side of it, they kind of dive into it that way where like they're still, yeah, it just dives into it a little bit more and better than what I think what you get with most of this stuff, where you can start to sympathize with some of the people, but at the same time very much so the same themes that you're talking about, because the whole point is that like the main character of that one is like, he didn't lose, there's like a group of people that are like chaotic that just go out and meanlessly kill people, and then there's other ones who found ways around it where they drink blood, from like animals and stuff like that in order to like try and like not hurt people basically. It's an interesting one.
True. Yeah, this just seems like a bad avenue for it because like at this
Yep.
point, like Bub and Big Daddy are like things that emerge amongst like the general zombie menace.
Hmm.
And like it is going to be real hard to like forget the fact that they are part of that. Like I can recognize that they are sad about that, but it's not part. I don't think it's like necessarily part of human nature to like respect like a beast's right to eat you. Like there are a lot of animals on this earth that are extinct because we were afraid of them eating us, because those animals were like, yeah, if I find a human, I'll eat it. And those animals are like extinct or mostly extinct now. Like, are you going to put up with like a bunch of like an uncontrolled population of like saber-toothed tigers in the modern age when you have a bunch of guns? No. And we didn't put up with them when we were like using stones and like barely had bows and arrows. It's just it's not. This is like, yeah, I'm sure that lion had like probably like liked its kids or something, but I mean it ate my kids, so yeah, it's and yeah, it's a tall order to make me feel sad about this zombie. But anyway, so after a while, Big Daddy isn't affected by the fireworks, and he's trying to like shake some of the other zombies out of their stupor. It doesn't work, but inconveniently, the fireworks launcher starts jamming or whatever, so they can't continue the display. So the crew decides to fall back, but Cholo is in the midst of getting some like robbing a like scavenging a liquor store, because essentially liquor is like a cash crop in this economy where like you can't really make it. It's hard to make it in this society, so it's like worth a lot of money to get liquor. So they're robbing the liquor store, and during the process of this, the extra who was with Riley at the beginning of the movie gets bitten by a zombie, which was hiding under a counter. Which it's this is the first of like the really cheap kills. Like it was just like it didn't react to anyone else who was like scouring this building before, and then suddenly it bites this one guy just out of nowhere. And as this happens, Riley has come to go retrieve Cholo and his guys, but has come to the scene as this extra had his hand bitten, and is just like chatting up, and they're they have a brief conversation about what to do about this, and which eventually results in the extra shooting himself in the head to prevent himself from becoming a zombie. Cholo was going to shoot him, but Riley had initially waved him off, but it just the guy decided to just kill himself instead of becoming a zombie.
Which is like, yeah, very much something that you realize in this one, that there is no they may have advanced in a lot of other areas, but they do not have any sense of a cure in this. They're, like in some zombie movies, yeah, they're like, oh, cut their arm off and we'll get them some treatment, or we're working on a cure. In this one, it's like, yeah, you're bit, you're gone.
Yeah, they don't have like a cut your arm off thing in this one, apparently. Though who knows how often that's been tried, and that would also be like a huge. That is not like an easy bit of first aid,
No.
probably. I hope I never find out. It's not fun anyway. But but yeah, that's a scene. As the scavenging crews are retreating, Big Daddy snatches a gun from one of the guys who's like driving past like straight through the zombie crowd on motorcycles, and Big Daddy manages to grab this really obnoxious looking mall ninja like assault rifle. Like it is just like, this is a silly looking firearm. I mean, it's cool sort of, but it's not like, it's clearly like something they've been like messing around with. um it's got like a transparent magazine and everything. It's a bullpup. It's really it's kind of silly looking and how much stuff's attached to it. Although I'm just not like, though that, to be fair, to announce my bias, I'm not a big fan of like modern firearms aesthetically. They're just not really my game. So I think a lot of like like I don't think the M16 looks good. So if you want to discount my opinion on that, you can use that as your reasoning. But yeah, I'm just yeah, I'm a biased source. I don't really care for modern firearms in terms of aesthetic. But yeah, he doesn't figure out how to fire it yet, but he does carry it around for a large part of the movie. Um, I, no, I think he does figure out how to fire it fairly quickly here. As the Dead Reckoning crew is like retreating, he figures out how to fire the gun, and Big Daddy starts does like a shout and calls a bunch of the other zombies to gather around him, and they start like following after Dead Reckoning and making their way to the central focus of this film, a place in Pittsburgh called Fiddler's Green, which is a essentially there's a part of Pittsburgh that's on like between like two rivers. It's called the Golden Triangle area of downtown's Pittsburgh, which is a region protected by like two
Interesting.
rivers, and on the third side, the residents of Fiddler's Green have like created this big electric barricade they they call the Throat in order to keep the zombies out. So they got themselves a little bit of a fortress. Fiddler's Green, the community is named after this big like residential skyscraper, which is called Fiddler's Green, and essentially they have like a bit of a caste system here where a bunch of the regular people are living in like the slums at like the base of around Fiddler's Green, where Fiddler's Green is like this high end apartment building where a bunch of the richos live. It's run by this guy called Paul Kaufman, played by Dennis Hopper, and yeah, this is the big crux of the movie, is that there's a big tension between the guys running fit the big apartment complex, who have like proclaimed themselves like essentially the big people in charge of this whole community, and the lower classes who are struggling to get by and who are like profiting off of the labor of the the lower classes. Some people have. I did have a friend I was talking to who was thought this was like a really heavy-handed like argument, but I didn't mind it. I thought it was okay. Because I'll say it is like maybe a bit heavier-handed with its political commentary than some of the other ones were. The other like of the Dead films, but I don't think it's like terribly heavy-handed. I do definitely see its point here, obviously. Very much agreeing with a lot of the points it's making. Yeah, so the Dead Reckoning crew arrives back here. Riley chews out Cholo for like what happened, and Cholo, I don't know that Cholo is like entirely unsympathetic about what happened, but he's not like allowing himself to be like a lot scolded for it.
Yeah, I kind of got similar vibes too.
Like he definitely recognizes that a bad thing happened. I don't think he like appreciates that. He's not like like he's more ignoring it, like getting he's just trying to get Riley off his back. Which on one level I get that, cuz like yeah, like it's always like when you've done something wrong, you don't need another guy like in your ear telling you did something wrong, which is where a lot of like arguments can come from, like of just like doubling down and like making sure this guy knows he did something wrong even though it's really obvious he did something wrong. So I kind of get where Cholo's
True.
coming from here. But he doesn't look like when we first see him enter this scene, he doesn't look like he's not blowing it off, but he does say he's going to go celebrate because mostly because he's act with this last haul, he's going to have enough money to get a place in Fiddler's Green, like the proper apartment complex. So yeah, he's like, yeah, yeah.
Yes, very much. It's shown that yeah, That's kind of his main reasoning behind a lot of the stuff that he's been doing, is so that he can get this apart in the luxury tower.
But yeah, he's kind of like, as much as that was a bad thing, he's just like, well, I mean, today's the day I'm out of all this. I don't have to go out there again. And yeah, he's not letting Riley like stomp over that mood. And like, this kid's not the first guy to die on one of these excursions, probably. So yeah, Cholo. That's where we're at there. We go into see some of the like rest the slums district. We see this Irish guy like doing a whole thing about essentially preaching against Kaufman Kaufman. I'm getting this back. Kaufman. That's easy to get mixed up, and I'm thinking of another guy too. Yeah, Kaufman. He's criticizing that Kaufman like what? So Kaufman needs to gets to have total control over this whole place, and besides, we're doing all the work, and the whole like he's arguing against capital and whatnot, like like essentially this capitalist society they've made themselves in. That's Kaufman admittedly set up this whole thing and like devised all the whole thing. Although there's parts of it like he didn't he obviously doesn't go out there himself anymore. He didn't design Dead Reckoning. That's evidently something that Riley Denbo did. Riley was apparently instrumental in the creation of Dead Reckoning, up to the point where he has like intimate knowledge of how it works. But yeah, so that's the preaching thing. Riley goes up to this guy and essentially gives him some biotics for his kid, which is something they had gathered while they were meddling around in that town. Riley's also retiring from the game simultaneously with Cholo, because he has saved up a bunch of money to get a car, and he is going to use that to go to Canada, apparently. So him and Charlie have gone to this garage where his car is, but they go to the garage and his car's not there anymore. The car that he paid for. So yeah, he's pretty mad about that. So he goes to go talk to the guy who sold him the car to see what he knows about all that and why his car isn't where he left it.
Like most people would.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, this is absolutely totally reasonable thing to do. I don't know what the cop situation here in this place is. They have guards, like for the gates and what everything, but I don't know what the internal police structure for all this place is. I don't see anyone like doing. No, never mind. There's some police in this. Never mind. I'll cut that part out. So yeah, he's going to go deal with this because he bought the car from a shady individual, which we'll get to. In the meantime, Cholo has gone into Fiddler's Green to go chat up with Kaufman to deliver a case of Henkel, which he got from the liquor store, and he's just like chatting it up, and he's like, "Hey Kaufman, let's share a drink here. I want to celebrate. I finally have enough money to buy an apartment here." And Kaufman's just like, "Oh well, I don't know. It's a long waiting list, and I gotta like talk to the board to see if you're the kind of person we want in." And Cholo's just not buying it. He's just like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, I'll appreciate this, and if you don't give me the place, I'll leak everything that you've been doing, and I'll tell everyone about all the bodies I've been disappearing for you." Which is a big part of how he got all this money so that he could afford an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, the sensible thing would be for Kaufman to like hire his big enforcer to keep him in this place, which was a lot of egomaniacal people would do. But I guess he's just like, and I'll be honest, I don't know if I see any like. I think this might even be a race thing. I don't know. I don't know that I see too many know if I see a bunch of diversity in the Fiddler's Green apartment complex, other than like the butlers and whatnot, who are obviously employees. But yeah, that's a whole thing. So Cholo is pretty angry about this, and he's just like, all right, well, I'm walking away. And Kaufman tells one of his bodyguards to go disappear Cholo. So Kaufman's guard follows Cholo down the stairwell with a gun in his hand, but Cholo manages to disarm the guard and beat him up. So that didn't go well. And that kind of just dismisses the idea that he's ever going to possibly get into Fiddler's Green. So he's going to have to do something drastic. In the meantime, Riley has gone into this sort of like gambling den. I don't know if this is illegal or not. I sure hope it's not legal, because this gambling den has like a photo booth where you can take pictures with live zombies who are like tied up to shit. Also like a zombie dogfighting ring. And in order to motivate the zombies to fight, they throw in live food for them to fight over. Which this time, in order to get these zombies to fight, they've thrown in a woman by the name of Slack, played by Asia Argento. So that's a whole thing. She fights off the zombies for a bit. While before Riley notices, he goes to talk to one of the guy who who was going to sell them the car. What's the guy's name?
It's something whack. Like, it's not a usual name. I think he's the owner of whatever the bar is.
Yeah.
Chihuahua is what I'm forgetting. I probably butchered how you say that.
Chihuahua.
Oh, that's no. Now I'm fucking.
Yeah, you were overthinking that.
Is that actually how you fucking say Chihuahua? Oh, fuck me.
Yeah, that's how it's spelled.
No way, English man.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. You're right. Who it is? It's Phil Fondacaro, who he's in a few movies. He's a little person who's dressed up as a pimp in this scene. Yeah, I mean that's a thing. Okay, whatever. Riley manhandles him a little bit because yeah, he's just like, where the fuck's my car, man? Dude, where's my car? Don't say aliens. I'm not Ashton Kutcher. Don't give me any lip. That's a bad joke. He's just like, okay, just let me figure this out. And he goes to the bar, and he talks to one of his other guys who's just like, hey, that guy might be a problem. You better go take care of him. But before some guys can go take care of Riley and Charlie, Riley has noticed that they've let this woman loose in this zombie cage. So he immediately does the responsible thing that any sane action hero would do, and pulls out his gun and shoots these two zombies in the head to save this lady. He does nick Slack in the process, but she is safe. Because yeah, of course you would do that. This isn't like a sane thing to do. This results in a gunfight because they already kind of wanted to kill the guys here. Already kind of wanted to kill Riley and Charlie. So them starting a gunfight in this place isn't going to help that. So a gunfight ensues. Some shots go thing, and Riley takes a good shot and shoots Chihuahua in the head as he's fleeing the place, doing a signature where he like licks his iron sights and follows the guy with his one eye and nails the guy.
Yeah, Charlie is the definition of a sure shot, an absolute legend.
Oh yeah, Charlie's great. But yeah, so they end up getting out of here, but apparently the police have arrived and arrest them for causing a ruckus. Which is just the height of no good deed goes unpunished. Although this place doesn't seem very like intent on rewarding the people who are centrals for its survival after a certain point. obviously Kaufman seems to have done a lot, but Cholo and Riley, by all accounts, seem pretty central to this whole thing, and by like making Dead Reckoning and holding all this stuff, and they don't get any respect, and not even like Riley at
Nope.
least seems like a decent guy. I think Riley's just getting
Yeah.
disrespected because he doesn't like he actually like helps people, or maybe he associates with that Irish guy who was preaching against Kaufman. But I don't know. Yeah, it's neither of these guys seem to get any respect. So Charlie, Riley, and Slack all end up in prison. Slack didn't even do anything. She had actually had a gunshot wound. So, which I think could maybe imply some things about how she got in that cage in the first place. Because, yeah, that's a whole thing. But, yeah, they end up in jail.
And that's when they dive into a little bit on the background of Slack. This is they kind of like they just dump some plot stuff where Slack was the you know this and that, and then they start making their plan for what needs to be done. Is that when they release they talk about her current profession, but then also that she was almost in the Navy or the military, or is that later on?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in here.
Yeah.
I did skip over a scene. There was a scene before. There was actually, I don't know. I forgot about it because it's not terribly relevant to the plot. But there's a scene between when Cholo meets with Kaufman, where some guy has hung himself in some old guy has hung himself in his apartment, and Cholo goes to take care of it because the guy's going to turn into a zombie. In the Night of the Living Dead franchise, this is one where people become zombies when they die, whether or not they got bitten, which always seemed like it seemed like a big twist when they did in like The Walking Dead. But no, I guess that's just a thing that was always true of the zombie franchise. It almost seems weird to see that's like central facet of the lore get like made a twist in like the later in that movie and that show. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's a whole yeah, so that's a thing where Cholo has to kill that zombie, who then ends up biting the zombie ends up biting the guy who is his kid, leaving this woman widowed, which is a whole thing. Yeah, I forgot about it because it doesn't really amount to anything else later. Just to show that like Cholo is willing to do the right thing occasionally. There's I'd be hard pressed to call Cholo a villain. Like he's not the real villain here.
No.
He'll do some bad stuff later, but like it's other than this, he the only I'll get to what he does later, but he's like only barely a villain. He's like a villain like Magneto is a villain. Like he occasionally goes too far. Like that's about it.
Or
Like
King DDD.
does King DDD have a backstory that like makes him like, oh, he was actually justified most of the time?
No, I'm King. This is a big sidetrack. King DDD is one of my all-time favorite villains, quote unquote, because he's just literally, and they set him up like he's the villain, but he's just unfortunate in the worst ways possible. He literally contradicts himself, which I love. That's a whole nother debate. I could talk about that for hours.
I'm not up on my Kirby lore. I've only played like one of the games.
Kirby Right Back at You was a fantastic place to be if you ever want to know.
I've seen it. I just
the first episode alone sums it up.
I don't remember a lot of it.
Kirby crashes on the planet. King Dedede doesn't like that he's there, so he proceeds to beat him up. Then the monsters rampaging around the city that he bought from the Monsters R Us dispensary guy. But the monster, he doesn't realize that the monster is actually a monster. He's like complaining, and then when it actually becomes the monster that's terrorizing the city, he like complains and cries, and then Kirby saves him, which then Kirby gets in his starship to leave the planet. But that's not good enough for King Dedede. He wants Kirby dead, so he shoots him out of the sky, but instead he just destroys his ship, and Kirby's forced to live.
Yeah, because Kirby's like
live on the planet with King Dedede. Yeah. So in a way, he is the whole reason why Kirby's still on the planet. So he's one of my favorite villains for that. That's my little side plug. He could have just let him leave. He could have just let him leave, and he would have never had to see him again. But he just had to shoot him out of the sky.
But yeah, no, Cholo makes a lot of good points because like he was just gonna get screwed, and unless like something is done about Kaufman, which probably like a gun raid on Kaufman's probably not gonna work. I think he has a bunch of like security that you can't just like take him out easily in like a gunfight. So that's probably a no go. But we'll get to what his plan is a little bit later. No, wait, I think we're at that part right now. The only other thing is like we see while
Yeah.
the Riley's crew is in jail, we see the Irish preacher guy get dragged into prison to get beat up. He is not killed because we see him at the end of the movie, but he gets like a beating in like police custody because the police support capital and something communism is essentially the joke here. I won't bore everyone with theory. For more about this, read Capital by Karl Marx. Anyway, moving on. Anyway, so Cholo decides he has to do something about this. So he goes to essentially steal the Dead Reckoning, which is going to be sort of difficult. I mean, it's going to be easier. If worst case comes to worst, it's probably a little bit easier to steal Dead Reckoning than it is to storm Fiddler's Green. So, but fortunately for Cholo, at this point, the place where they had Dead Reckoning is like at a garage across the river that they get to through like the subway. So they have like a little outpost there, which the zombies have reached simultaneously with all this. And Big Daddy's zombie horde manages to raid this entire place while Cholo and the Dead Reckoning crew steal Dead Reckoning during the chaos. So this entire outpost is just smothered by all these zombies, and Cholo gets a hold of Dead Reckoning. So Cholo sends an ultimatum to Kaufman now that he has Dead Reckoning. He says, "Give me $5 million or I am going to blow you to smithereens with the missile launchers on Dead Reckoning." So yeah, that's a threat. So yeah, that's the whole thing. Kaufman's not going to negotiate with terrorists. I mean, he couldn't negotiate with him when he wasn't a terrorist. Although he was like disposing of people for Kaufman, which sort of makes him a state-sponsored terrorist. So I guess that's why he wasn't. I mean, I guess by that logic, it was entirely consistent not to negotiate with Cholo. But yeah, this was a pretty shitty thing to do. A lot of problems could have been solved. Especially like if they have Dead Reckoning on them and like was dealing with the zombie threat, they probably could have dealt with this whole thing before it spoiler alert, it escalates from here.
There's no they really do just like once the zombies are in, this just shit hits the fan.
Yeah, it just keeps getting worse from here. But yeah, so Kaufman comes up with an idea. He recruits Riley to go get Dead Reckoning, because maybe Riley can talk some sense into Cholo. Whereas they can't, like if 50 guys did that, they just get gunned down because Dead Reckoning is a fortress. And also Riley designed the damn thing, so maybe he knows some sort of weakness for it. But Riley also in this conversation actually brings out a thing. It's just like, I bet you did something to get rid of my car. So that implies that Kaufman was the one who disposed of like Riley's new car that he had bought, which is a pretty shitty thing to do because yeah, he's also just keeping Riley here despite the fact that he wants to quit. I guess theoretically Riley could become a rival and just make like a second Dead Reckoning at some point. Like who's to say Riley doesn't just go to a military base, make up a new one, and yeah. This is kind of like a this kind of like draws back to something I call the conundrum of the dictatorial meritocracy, where like it's a like obviously in a meritocracy you want the most qualified guy to run everything, but once you run everything you don't want other people to run things. So if a guy appears to be better than you at your job, he's not like something that's improving society, he's a threat to you. Like that is a threat to your job anytime someone gets more competent than you. So you got to kill the guy who's more competent than you, which leads to a bunch of your cabinet being filled with a bunch of yes men and idiots, and eventually leads to societal decline. See Rome, the end of the Roman Empire, or any number of dictatorships. This is actually a really common thing. There's a whole thing at like the end of Rome where like one of the last Roman West Roman generals to actually win fights was killed by the emperor, because if you start winning fights, well, maybe you should be the emperor rather than the kid who's losing all the fights. So yeah, that's the whole like conundrum of that's really the big probably a central problem with dictatorships in general. Like you can't improve them until the previous guy dies, which is just a big damn flaw. But anyway, so Riley says he'll go do it if he gets his friend, like if he can get his friends out of prison too. So yeah, he gets Charlie and Slack out of prison, because I mean he doesn't know Slack, but why wouldn't you just get this lady out of prison? She's in there for bullshit reasons, so you might as well be just like, hey, you want out of here? Sure, yeah, we're friends, right? Yeah, that's honestly a pretty Chad thing to do. Just like, yeah, I'll lie to get
Very
this lady out
much.
of prison. Yeah, Riley's a cool guy. No notes. Riley's just a pretty
Yeah,
cool
he's
guy.
all around pretty solid.
Yeah. Like the worst you could say is like he's giving like about him giving Cholos shit, but I mean he's being perfectly understandable there. It's understandable that he'd do that. Is it like that's a maybe like the most minor error in judgment, and even then it's not a big deal in the long run because that's not like a central tension in the movie. But anyway, so they get a bunch of guns so they can go do this, and they're also given reinforcements from three police guys. A guy named Montello, I think that's his name. Manole is the guy's name.
Oh, there we go.
Yep, he's named after a bullfighter. There's a lady named Motown, maybe.
Yep, Motown. Yep.
Yep, and then a big guy named Pillsbury, who's a big gigantic Samoan guy who's just the best. I like
Just
Pillsbury.
awesome all
He's
around.
cool. Yeah, yeah, no, not, like a nice
Pillsbury
cool
is a
Samoan
legend.
guy. He's very much a he's friend shaped. I like that terminology. Yeah, he's just a very cheery big guy, and he's actually the cool one of these three. Although Manole is okay. It's just no, honestly, just weirdly, the lady's not very cool. But we'll get to that. So yeah, these six are gonna go out and go find the Dead Reckoning, and to do that, they go out through into the outpost where the Dead Reckoning was parked, to go get a vehicle and whatnot. So yeah, they do that. While they're scanning this outpost, they end up shooting some zombies. Manole ends up getting bitten and dies. Or no, he doesn't die. They take him away, and Slack ends up shooting him because he's going to turn into a zombie. Because I mean, it's actually kind of interesting that like some of the people are like, "Hey, how long does it take people to turn into zombies?" And Riley's just like, "Yeah, about an hour." And Slack's just like, "Okay, we better kill this guy."
Badunk. Gone.
Yep. So yeah, that's a whole thing. They have 2 hours to do all this, by the way, because Cholo threatened to blow the place up at midnight, and they get moving at like 10 o'clock. So a lot of time to do all this. Kaufman, in the meantime, has like started getting ready to like evacuate the building. He's told people that they're willing to they're ready to evacuate. But Kaufman's making his own escape plan just in case. Cholo drops off a scout at a port. This guy just dies later. He's just
Yeah, they drop him off there as like a contact point slash like something or other, but like he literally was just dropped off to die. There's no other way to put it.
yeah, he makes his report 2 hours, 2.5 hours later, and then he immediately gets eaten by zombies. It's kind of pointless, actually.
Yeah,
It's not like necessarily a bad scene. It's just like it doesn't have any bearing on anything.
I do love though, like when he dies, and it's just like he shoots the one zombie, and then instead of like walking over carefully, he like takes the time to like get on his skateboard because he's like the skateboard trope guy, and rides it like 5 feet to check if the zombie's okay before he's just obliterated.
Riley apparently just has a tracking device on Dead Reckoning, so they're able to track him down pretty easily.
Perfection.
But they managed to find Dead Reckoning pretty promptly. Riley goes up on his own to go check on all this. They negotiate a bit.
He gives them the ultimatum for the people that were sent to him with by Kaufman, basically telling them that like this is what I'm doing and you have a job to do. And like Pillsbury's just like, yeah, I understand. And then I think it's Motown who gives like a little bit of pushback, and then they just knock her out.
Yeah, the police guys got sent in order to kill Riley after he took the Dead Reckoning because he also can't be trusted. So, but thankfully Pillsbury's cool and just knocks Motown unconscious. So she's out of the picture for a little bit. Riley goes to meet with Cholo. He ends up talking with them, and he Riley ends up disabling the missile launchers on Dead Reckoning through his tracking device. So it turns out this was actually really easy. So it was actually entirely plausible within his power to just do everything he needed to do. So he's just like, look, this isn't happening. My guys will shoot you if you hurt me. Just we'll let you go. He's just like, Cholo, you can take that Jeep we came in. You take off. We're gonna take Dead Reckoning and run off too. So eventually, yeah, they're still losing Dead Reckoning. Riley's just not gonna let Cholo blow up Fiddler's Greens, which was the entire conflict here. But like they both agree that like, yeah, Kaufman's a dick, and we're not gonna let him have stuff. We're not gonna let him have nice things. So that's the whole thing there. Cholo ends up getting shot by Motown, who appears out of nowhere and gets bitten by a zombie. Pretty cheap. But yeah. So most of the Dead Reckoning crew actually sticks with Riley. It's just like one of the guys goes with Cholo and they end up taking off.
Yep.
Yeah. So they end up taking off and going away. So during this whole thing, the zombies came to the river and we're just like, how do we deal with this? And Big Daddy decides to jump in and convinces all the other zombies to follow him. So they swim across the river and get around the big electric fence and start raiding the entire city. Kaufman reacts to this by getting in his car and getting ready to take off with all his money. So yeah. Also, there's one little while the zombies start raiding this place. There's one little thing I don't appreciate. They introduce two ladies that are kissing and then immediately kill them by zombies. Like it's a bad look to just bury your gays for no reason. Like you didn't have any gays, and then you brought in some gays just so you could bury them. It's not a good look.
Yeah, like they weren't even on the screen
yeah.
for more than like 4 seconds.
No, it's just to show two ladies kissing and then they immediately die. Which I could have done without. Whatever. I don't think it's necessarily. I don't suspect the worst about John Romero. So yeah, we'll let this. I mean, it's not great, but yeah, it shouldn't have done this essentially. But anyway, moving on. So yeah, so since the zombies have like taken over the city, Riley has to go bring Dead Reckoning back into city limits in order to save everyone with Dead Reckoning, because it's a big tank and it can just do that. Cholo and the other guy are like plotting their trip to Cleveland. Essentially, is where they think they'll go do some stuff. While they're doing this, Cholo ends up getting bit, and he is just like, the guy that's with him is just like, look, I'll shoot you or you can shoot yourself, and I'll give you a choice here. And Cholo's just like, nah, you go on. I want to see how the other half lives, which means a couple things. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Big Daddy has made it across the pond and has, in the meantime, gathered a bunch more tools for his zombies to use. The zombies are generally getting smarter here. Notably, in a little bit, Dead Reckoning is going to fire off the fireworks, which paralyzed the entire horde earlier, but doesn't work here because Big Daddy is able to cow them into doing what they're supposed to do. Yeah, so the city's going. They've raided the whole thing. This, the Dead Reckoning crew has to go over on a drawbridge, which they do. The zombies end up swarming the thing, and a little zombie catches while they end up getting away from here, one of the zombies grabs onto the ladder on the back of Dead Reckoning and holds on, which is almost a bit of a design flaw. This vehicle is actually like very impenetrable, except for this one thing where this zombie grabs onto it. So yeah, eventually all the rich people from Fiddler's Greens head toward the throat, the electric fence thingamajig, but they can't turn off the electric fence thing, so they're just like stuck. But the fireworks turn on at this point, and that stalls them for a little bit. But the zombies eventually learn to ignore the fireworks, and everyone's just like, "Oh, we're gonna die," and then all these people die.
Yeah, it's really shows how much the zombies just were like, yeah, that shit don't work no more.
Yeah, yeah, that was a whole thing. It also kind of like, again, this is the other thing with like the zombie, like the sympathy with the zombies. They're getting more dangerous. Like this is a thing that like there's a defense against the zombies that no longer works, and like, ugh, I don't. Yeah, it's a like, what are we like? There's no like middle ground here between us and them. Like,
No.
like we need to salvage stuff. We can't spend time together, and we need to like salvage stuff from like the old world, so we're gonna have to like risk our lives going into their territory to get stuff every now and then. Granted, I don't think they need to eat us, but I don't think that solves anything. Like, what? Yeah, yeah, sure, we won't kill the zombies and then get eaten more often. It's just like, it doesn't, it's, yeah, again, it's just impossible to have this whole thing where like, oh, we feel sympathy with the zombies. It doesn't work because it's like, again, yeah, they're getting smarter, they're maybe gaining some sentience, but they're getting more dangerous. Like, there's gonna be a point where like they regret eating people. That's the only thing that's gonna give us sympathy for the zombies. In the meantime, Lothman has gone to his limo, and Big Daddy has met him there. Coffin manages to hide in his car. His gun had ran out of ammo a little earlier, and it was all his remaining clips were like left in like a bag that got dropped. So he manages to hide from Big Daddy inside his limousine. Big Daddy can't break all the way in, so he manages to take like the fuel refueling station that's sitting next to this car, and smashes his way in through the windshield and leaves it leaking gasoline. And then Big Daddy wanders off. Kaufman thinks he's safe, so he goes to retrieve a clip for his handgun.
Yeah, the keys, and then also some keys for the vehicle, I think, too.
Also
from
keys.
the bag.
Yep. Yeah, because because I guess those were maybe the spare keys, because his butler kind of runs off.
The chauffeur just peels out of there.
Rightfully so. Although I don't think he lives through this. I think that's probably a dangerous situation for him. But as this
Yeah.
happens, Cholo arrives and takes a couple bullets from Kaufman's gun before being revealed as a zombie. So when he said, "I'm going to see how the other side lives," he mentioned the zombie and also that he was going to go see Kaufman at the ritzy part of town. So yeah, that had a double meaning. I like that. That was a cool line, actually.
Yeah, that was
So
pretty good.
Cholo and Kaufman fight each other for a little bit, and eventually it turns out that Big Daddy wasn't just wandering off. He goes to get like a firecracker or some sort of flare and throws it and rolls it down into the gasoline puddle on the floor and blows up the vehicle, or blows up the vehicle, killing the Cholo zombie and Kaufman. So yeah, I kind of like that. That was kind of neat.
Yep, that one was well done.
So yeah, Dead Reckoning finally arrives at the throat and notices the massacre at the electric fence. And Riley's just like, "We need to blow the fence," and he's like, "Yeah, but there's still people there," and like, "Yeah, dead people." So they blow the fence because like other people will need to like go through here to get out of the city that's now been flooded with zombies. And sure enough, a moment after this, a bunch of the poor people wander out and wander out through the fence. So I guess a bunch of the rich people got their comeuppance. Although we only see the one, like Kaufman, being a total asshole. The other guys seem like, granted, likely very unsympathetic to flight of the poor caste in this society, but they seemed at least sort of reasonable. I don't think they necessarily deserve to die. Maybe if you get like Kaufman out of the picture, it like changes some things there. But yeah, no. So yeah, that's a whole thing. So the zombies at that point sort of wander off. They've done what they wanted to do, I guess. I don't know how that translates so much. Because they were mad at Dead Reckoning, but Dead Reckoning is still fine. So I don't know, but the zombies sort of wander off after that. I guess the poorer cast of Fiddler's Green move into the apartments, and Riley goes to take Dead Reckoning to Canada, and Riley shares a another look with Big Daddy, who he saw at like he did at the beginning of the movie, and just like they leave each other alone, which
A
I guess is
mutual
like a thing.
respect.
Yeah, again, Big Daddy is a flesh-eating monster. Is the problem here?
Yep.
Um, that's a problem with this. But that's the end of the movie. We also got a fake out with the zombie that was clung to the ladder in the back, where the zombie like drops out of the upper hatch on Dead Reckoning onto a guy, but Pillsbury manages to take care of it because he's awesome.
Yeah, that was kind of a nice little thing at the end.
Yeah, that no one that like they didn't just go for one last cheap kill, which this movie has like again
Yeah.
5 or 6 cheap kills where it's just like a guy turns the direction and a zombie's there and he's dead. Which yeah, that's is what it is. So yeah, that's the end of the movie. Thoughts?
Overall, pretty
Anything?
good though, I must say. Yeah, overall, I thought it was a nice, like, it was. I think it was nice to see it kind of in a more modern style with a larger budget. That was kind of a nice treat.
Shane George Romero passed away because he might have still made another one of these if he had lived another years or something. Because he made actually 3 movies in like
I
rather
didn't know
quick
that. Yeah.
succession. Yeah, because they're still in this like series is like Diary of the Dead and then Survival of the Dead, which are lower budget movies, but he still makes 2 more of them. Which we'll do Diary of the Dead next year. So yeah, but yeah, I liked it. I think I was my friend didn't like it, so I had like lower expectations, but I thought it was all right. obviously, I think I've said like my complaints about it, which I think are somewhat valid. But
Yeah.
there's also stuff I really like about it. I like how a lot of when the action's good, it's pretty good. I like seeing this movie in sort of a modern day, and like my mileage varies with like horror movie directors, and George Romero's still like a director I like. Like I haven't seen like a bad George A. Romero movie that I didn't like. I maybe like this a hair better than Day of the Dead.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was trying to remember what I gave it for a rating, and I think it'd be right near there. Just a little bit more.
Yeah, hair better. Just I think there's just more action. It's less compressed, I guess. I like the it like the